go ahead. So first and foremost, thank you for coming on the show and taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So how do you pronounce your name? Milan? Did I get it
Milan.
correctly?
Well,
Milan.
technically it's pronounced Milan, but
Hmm.
because I'm in Canada, most people don't know how to pronounce it properly. Some people still don't know how to say my name correctly. But the easiest way I've explained it to people since I've been since I was young is Milan.
Milan. Okay. Okay.
Milan.
So what kind of name is that, if you don't mind me asking?
So it's actually the story behind it is my my mom is Portuguese, my
Hmm.
dad is Vietnamese, and when they met, my dad told my mom a story about I think it was maybe about a Vietnamese princess named Milan, and my mom really liked the name, but in Vietnamese it's spelled differently. I'm
Hmm.
not entirely sure how it's spelled in Vietnamese, to be honest.
Hmm.
But it's funny. My mom was like, even if I don't marry you, I'm still going to name my daughter Milan. And because we live here, she changed it to the Italian way of spelling it,
Hmm.
which is Milan. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So that's pretty
so.
interesting.
I think it's actually. I wouldn't say it's like a Vietnamese name. I don't
Mm.
know. I've heard it's quite common in I think it's Serbia and Croatia, but
Mm.
it's a male's name because I've met a couple males named
Yeah,
Milan.
yeah. Well, I mean, Serbia and Croatia is close to the areas where I'm from, Russia, and so. But to be honest, I'm not a name connoisseur, so I
Yeah.
don't really know anything about that. But I mean, that's pretty cool. So were you born in Toronto, or were you
I
born
was,
over?
yeah,
Okay, so you are.
yeah. I was born in Toronto.
Okay, got it, got it. Do you know? Did your mom teach you like anything else, like language wise?
Any Portuguese?
Yeah.
I know some Portuguese. I wouldn't say I'm fluent. I wish I was.
What about?
For example, I have an older brother, and he knows a lot more than me because he was when he was born, he was babysat by my vovó, which is my grandma. So my
Hmm.
grandma spoke a lot of Portuguese to him,
Hmm.
and then I don't really know any Vietnamese to be honest, but I know some Portuguese, and I want to learn because once I
Yeah.
have kids, I want to be able to teach them too.
Well,
So I'm
it feels it feels like the whole wellness division that speaks Portuguese. Like in
Yeah, they're all
it's like,
Brazilian. Yeah.
I was like,
They're
is there
dominating that right now.
yeah, is there anyone else? No, like it's like and it was funny in the Olympia. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it or anything like that, but like three of the girls were Brazilian. These particular, I can't remember who it was, but
Like top
they
three.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But and then like a lot of them had like the same outfits too. Like I was like, did you guys go to
Yeah.
the same person? There must be like a common, like coaches and common like
Oh yeah.
suit makers that they all use. So
Yeah. Like their suits or just like the way they dress. Well, like I just find in general, yeah, they're all quite similar. But
yeah.
I think Ricardo, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Hmm.
Panin or whatever.
I know who you're
He's
talking about. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, very common successful coach within the wellness girls and even bikini. Coaches a lot of top bikini girls, Isa Pacini,
Hmm.
uh, and then I think he coaches France. No, who coaches Francel? I think it might be him actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty amazing how they're like dominating. And I mean, honestly, like you said, even some other divisions too, like in bikini, and then like there's more variety in the other ones, but still, you have the Latin America Hispanic,
yeah,
competitors really
Brazil and
dominating.
I find it's mainly Brazil. I wouldn't say it's like Portugal
Hmm.
yet, I guess,
Hmm.
but I kind of put them in the same. You
Sure.
know, I I would say that they're about the same. But yeah, they're dominate. Like look at even in classic, you have Ramon, and
Hmm.
then which that was really good for him. Like that was crazy. Like his first Olympia did so
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And then what other division? And then you have you have Rafael Brando
Hmm.
in the Open. He's done really well too. I love that. Love his physique.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Brazilians are doing really well right now.
What did you think about it's usually when I talk to women, I generally talk about like women's divisions, but it sounds like you've got a good handle on others. What did you think about men's open? And I know we were far removed from, from the show, so it's okay to not remember things, but
Yeah.
but
No,
what
I'm actually like a bigger fan of the open division than I
hmm
am like even though I compete in bikini and I love bikini, don't get me wrong,
hmm
but I'm a huge fan of just bodybuilding. I love the open bodybuilders. I think that they're unbelievable, and I just find so much interest in it.
yeah.
But like, are you asking like what I thought of the Olympia
Yeah,
this?
like yeah, what did you think of the open and just kind of like overall, like anything stand out to you? I mean,
Yeah,
Rami went ahead and repeated for a second time. So what did you think?
yeah. So so 2020, I was actually at the Olympia,
Oh
and
wow,
I
okay.
got to see, yeah, I got to see it. Is honestly, I'm not kidding. Like, it sounds really corny, but it was like one of the best days of my life. Like, it was like because I didn't expect to watch the Olympia. Like, I went to go
Mhm.
compete at the Amateur Olympia, and I was thankfully I was surprised with a ticket to go see the prejudging, and it was like the coolest thing ever. But I thought that this year was like super exciting because you had a lot of
Yeah.
new people coming to Olympia to really like prove themselves, and I thought it was very very exciting, and I think it's kind of built a little bit more of a hype for this year. Uh, like, you've got who did their first Olympia this year. You had Nick, obviously. You had Ian, who did really well this
hmm
year. James, who's a good friend of mine. Although it wasn't the outcome that he wanted, it was still really cool to see him up there.
Yeah.
Uh, you had Justin Rodriguez, who I thought was like really impressive. He was up there. Who else was kind of newer this year and who came back? I don't think did Patrick do the Olympia this year? Patrick Timor? No,
I don't remember
I don't think he
him.
qualified this year, but he
Yeah.
competed after. But yeah, and then just like it was really cool. Just I thought it was a really impressive Olympia because I thought that the year, I think it was 2019, wasn't as impressive, and then 2020 came along. It was like really cool to see that in person,
hmm
and which was another thing that I'll bring up, which was super cool, was I got to see Dexter's last Olympia. And
Oh, that's
Dexter,
awesome.
I'm such a big fan of Dexter. I always have been. So it was like really, really cool to see him up there. And then also just seeing Rami like uh in the prejudge, just see him like evolve like as he posed.
Yeah.
Like, he just got better as he posed. And it was really, really cool. But this year I thought was really awesome, and I wish I was there in person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's I mean, you have a really good memory actually, that you remember a lot more than I do. But one thing I was thinking about when you mentioned Dexter, I was like, he is the blueprint on how to do bodybuilding, like as far as like longevity and even
oh
wins,
yeah.
so because you see often like, bodybuilders that either they don't do well, or they, run out of steam fast, or let's be honest, like health ramifications come in.
Yeah.
And with Dexter, it's like he never really had those issues. And I really think it's probably because he's just consistent. He didn't try to, like, he knew what his look was and where he was good at, and he got it, and he got it every single show. And he never like tried to really, try to blow himself up too much, get,
Yeah.
and I think that helped his health. And then I think that also like helped him to win all the time, because often when you try to like, when you try your best to change something, and then it's 50-50. Sometimes it
Mhm.
goes well, sometimes you're bigger, sometimes, sometimes you look, you aren't as sharp, so. But with him, he just kept just that same look. I saw a funny meme. It was it was like different years for Dexter, and it's like but
Yeah.
they put the same picture up, and they're
Oh,
year 3000. It's like the same picture. It's like he
that's
never
amazing.
changes. He's always so sharp, and yeah, and I'm real happy that, that he got out of the sport winning so much, and then also just with his health, he can spend time with his family. It's, everything seems to worked out for him. So
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of him for that reason too, and he's just such a respectful bodybuilder, and I think that
yeah.
he really like, if you could have an ideal run at bodybuilding
Hmm.
and like live it out and be successful and whatever and do it right, Dexter
Yeah.
figured it. Like
Yeah,
he figured,
and he won the Olympia, right? Like
yeah,
I mean he literally won like almost every title that you could think of up to the biggest title that there is. So
yeah.
I mean he
And I
has
just loved his sorry, I didn't mean to cut
no
you
no
off.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I just loved his confidence up there. And I
Hmm.
loved that you could tell he loved being up there.
Yeah.
And that's I think the reason I resonate with that because I just love being on stage.
Hmm.
Like the whole prep thing, like yeah, like I like it, I enjoy it. The training for me is my favorite part. Um, but being on stage is like it's something you can't like you can't just replicate that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
on an everyday basis. It's just like it's such a great feeling once you get
Yeah.
comfortable, obviously.
It's very unique, right? Like, and especially like I was talking to I believe Wendy Fortino. She competes in figure, and she's been competing for quite a while. And what we were talking about how like she was an athlete before she started bodybuilding, and we were speaking about how it bodybuilding is such an interesting sport because it allows an outlet for people that like are older, like they're getting older, so or they're not to the level in their original sport, like they can't, like she couldn't make it to the Olympics because of some injury or something like that. So that was like an outlet for them, for her. So I always think about like if these people weren't bodybuilding, what would they be doing? You can't really, like there's not really a sport that you can do like for quite a while like you can bodybuild. So it's
Sure.
it's very unique in that fashion. So
It is. It's very unique and the cool thing about it is like everybody's different. Like
mhm.
there's nobody who's the exact same, and that's like the coolest thing to me. And
Yeah,
we can just kind of take uh you can just appreciate someone so much more for being just like an individual
yeah.
and how they decide to like showcase their work and then how they like it's just so cool. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up like everybody being different. So they're adding a lot of division, or over the years I should say they've added a
Yeah.
lot of different divisions.
Yeah.
And there's people are on both sides of that. Some people say it's watered down the sport. Some people say, well, no, it gives an opportunity for different body styles to compete. Like what is your take on that?
I definitely don't think it's like watered it down or whatever. I don't think that at all. I think
Mhm.
it's given yeah, it just gives people opportunity to showcase their genetics,
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, it really comes down to genetics. Like, yeah, like you have to work hard and like obviously that's a big part of it, but in order to be successful, I think you have to be completely honest with yourself about your genetics and where you fit. And
mhm.
some people have, had great genetics but couldn't fit in a certain category because there was no category for it. So I think it's really cool that they've added these new categories to not only kind of let people who are genetically blessed to showcase that, but also it gives people the opportunity to grow into something. So like for me, for example, I even though I compete in bikini, I'm very much interested in eventually changing categories and growing into another category because why not? That's what bodybuilding is about. And I like to train. And if it comes to that, then I can do it. And it's cool to have the option to want to
Right,
do
right.
opposed to if there's like I don't know only two categories per like male or female, it's like you can't really like where can you go.
Right, right. And it does add a different like flavor, right? Like it gives you
Oh,
more
100%.
goals, like you can do a lot more than just compete the same old division, the same old, way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely see your point of view. When that you mentioned you mentioned that you wanted to go into another division maybe eventually. Like what were you thinking? What kind of
Yeah.
division?
Well, I mean, before wellness came along, I obviously thought about figure,
Hmm.
because I think I have like I have like a decent upper body, like my upper body genetics and like insertions. I think I could do well in figure if I put on a lot of size. But obviously, I thought, man, like I'm gonna have to really put on a lot of size for that, only because like every year each division, the demand for muscularity has been more and more and more and more. Even bikini now, it's like, if you look at like, so I started competing in 2015. And if you look at like the demand for muscle in 2015 at the Olympia versus now, it's like, holy shit. Like it really has been like, it's like, it used to be here. Now it's like all the way out here. So it's like, it's evolving. And it got to the point with figure where I was like, fuck, like I'm very competitive and I like to do well. And if I were to do well in figure, I'd have to really, really take off a lot of time, put on a lot of size. But I think, I was still confident that I could compete in it if I wanted to. But obviously I had to be more honest with myself about my own genetics, and I was more built for bikini. But now that wellness has come along, it's just kind of like given me that extra like oomph to be like, okay, this is a division where I can grow and I can do like a little bit more with my posing maybe, because they have quarter turns actually. So they have 4 mandatory poses opposed to bikini at one point had quarter turns, but they only have the 2 poses now. And I love to pose. And that was another reason why I really wanted to do figure, was because I could be bigger with how I present myself on stage. And because bikini, they don't really want you to flex your upper body at all, really. They kind of made that pretty clear. And after the 2020 Olympia, especially with the lats and the shoulders, they didn't want anyone to kind of like open up and like have like a V taper type of thing, where I find that's actually a strength of mine. So I wanted to eventually tap into that if I do decide to grow. And I think that, but it's kind of hard to say with wellness. The upper body's still not that big, but the lower half is like pretty dominant. And that's always something that I've been interested in working on in the gym. I've, wanted to just continue to grow my legs, and that would be like a big challenge for me if I, wanted to do that. And I do. I just, as of right now, I'm just kind of training more towards my category, but I've definitely had it in mind the last, maybe like 6 months to push wellness eventually.
Yeah. I mean, to your point about the muscle, I mean, sometimes you look at a picture and it's a bikini girl, right? But you don't know it. And then you're thinking, oh, well, she must be figure. She's so muscular. And it's like, I'm talking about non-stage pictures, right? Like she's so muscular. Yes. And it's like, you look at it, it's like, oh no, she's in bikini. And it's like, how is she in bikini? But yeah, muscularity the demand has gone up through the roof, and it's still going up. And, I don't know when it probably will never stop. So this,
we'll see. Like, I mean, it changes every year, right? It's like, I think that right now it's at a good level. I think that it's enough. Because before I was like, oh yeah, like I think bikini could use a little bit more muscle. Like when Angelica Teixeira was winning, people were saying that, she is a little bit more muscular than previous winners. And I really, really liked her look. So I was quite happy when they started to reward that. And then they kind of went back a little bit when they rewarded Issa the title. And then with Jen, I find that it's and like Laura Lee and everything, it's been kind of that like perfect middle ground between the two previous to Jen. So I'm pretty like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because it's like, I think I'm very small. Like I've always been told I'm so small. But then this year, or my last competition, they told me I was on the brink of being too big. So I need to like stay where I am. But I think that it's really based on the judge, like what the judges prefer or what that judge prefers on that person.
Yeah, that's tough, right? Like that's tough because because every show is different. You have, probably different judges. I'm assuming they're judging your competitions. So one judge might tell you one thing, another judge tells you another thing. It's almost like you have to be the the researcher and try to figure out, okay, well, how do I take the best advice from this person and the best advice from this other person and try to bring it together into like a package that any
Exactly.
competition I go to is gonna do well, you know?
Exactly. I think it's a matter of not only, I think it's, you have to be aware of what they're rewarding at the time, but then also you need to be aware of what looks good on you, like,
Right.
and what will be the best for you. So like for me, I've had judges telling me, come in leaner, but then come in bigger, but then come in smaller, but
Hmm.
then it's like it's different every time, right? Depends on the look that I bring that year, and then they just take that and say, "What? How can you make that a little bit better to be, the best of
Yeah.
the best?" And it depends also the majority of what shows up for that day. Some of the girls might, majority of them might be a little bit softer. So if you come in a little bit harder, then it's either they're going to reward you or they're going to reward the softer look because that's the majority, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
some of these girls coming in a little bit smaller, more capped shoulders, bigger hamstrings. Like, for example, the amateur Olympia, uh, the one thing I noticed in the top two was that the girls, the place above me had a little bit more dense hamstring. Like they looked more wellness to me, but
Mhm.
they were superior in terms of their hamstring. So the judges kind of favored that, which for me,
Right.
then it made me realize, okay, maybe I need to bring up my hamstrings more, which is what I've been working on. But in previous shows, it's like that's not really been like a critique of mine, like,
Right.
oh, you bring up your hamstrings. So it's like really depends what shows up that day and who you're standing beside. Because a physique can look very good on its own, right? Like you see a lot of these open bodybuilders, especially, you see them on their Instagram posts, and it's like, holy fuck, like
Mhm.
that guy could be Mr. Olympia, But then you
Yeah.
see him on stage and you see them stand next to each other, and you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah, that happens all the time.
yeah,
All the time. You look at somebody by themselves and they look incredible.
yeah,
And then as soon as they step on stage with someone else, it's like you start seeing the differences between the two physiques that are, next to each other and who's more superior.
yeah,
it's
apples and oranges.
yeah, it's one of those things. Bikini is very interesting in the fact that you guys don't have, or I should say you girls don't have a long-standing like record of Olympia champs. So it's like in the sense of the
Yeah.
same individual winning the Olympia. It's one of a few divisions that the turnover is like very like high.
Mhm.
I think what Ashley Caldwell maybe like holds the record, right? Like what
Yeah,
does she have?
she's
Like
three
three or
time,
four? But
three
yeah,
time.
three.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, I mean, on one hand, that's a good thing because it gives a lot of people opportunities. But then on the other
Yes.
hand, it's like, well, what are they going to look for this year?
Yeah. It is definitely like a roller coaster for sure. But I think generally it's the same. It's the same look really, and
Mhm.
it's the same kind of. I think with bikini, it's a lot of it is presentation and voice and how you present yourself um and there's so many great physiques with
Yeah.
bikini. It's like you see the first call out and the second call out, like they're all just awesome. It's like, fuck, how can you really pick?
Mhm.
But then it comes down to, simple things like hair and makeup,
Mhm.
how you hit your front pose, how you hit your back pose, how you decide to transition. Just posing is huge. Posing is massive in the sport. I don't care what anybody says in any division. I think that posing is probably one of the most important things, and I think that most competitors should focus on. Because like I watch the Olympia and I see like you can just tell who's practiced like every day,
Mhm.
who and who. But then again, it's like so there's so many factors to why somebody's posing might be a certain way, like
Yeah.
it comes down to nerves, comes down to what even flexibility, comes down to so many different things like cramping.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's but then again, I think that that's a big factor in what what makes a good champion is
Sure.
somebody who really, really focuses on their posing.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, to your point, as far as you're, very dehydrated on stage, there's certain things that it might not be as easy to do in the state that you're in, as opposed to like maybe when you're off season or something like that. So,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit different, but I do think it's one of those things that's often overlooked, like often overlooked.
Yeah.
People are gun ho about training, which is great. I mean, it's fun, right? But the posing is overlooked, and you, like you said, you can tell when someone, you know the worst thing that I see is people with great physiques, but then they don't pose well, so they can't present it
Yeah.
well, and then they don't do well because of that. That sucks.
Yeah. And I think it's like, it's really a shame sometimes, because some people just like, they do practice and they work
Mm,
really hard and they try to focus on it, but they just can't. Some people just can't, it's not in them, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
It's very difficult for some people to find that like confidence or flow, or even like I said, like flexibility is such a big thing with
yeah,
posing, because it's like you're really contorting your body, and
right,
you have to try to hold that with being depleted and being in front of a whole bunch of people and being, you know,
yeah,
um, the nerves are there. So yeah, it's I feel as if it's actually like something that some competitors are born with,
mm,
like
yeah,
some people are seriously talented, and it's truly amazing to see when you see somebody who kind of naturally has that skill or kind of like flow to them,
mhm,
and then they work on it and they come up with this beautiful presentation. Like that's why I really, really like the classic division. I think that it's uh it's so fun to watch, because the posing
right,
is just, some of these guys really, really focus on it. Like obviously Terrence, and then Urs. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his
mhm,
name properly, but he was very impressive this year as well. And then even I'm noticing the figure competitors. I think it was at 2020. There was this one competitor, I forget her name, but she comes out and she hits this like, it was like a classic pose that she hit. And I was like, oh my God, I literally was freaking out, because I was like, that is so sick. Like, I would love to be able to do that. And
yeah.
I can just appreciate it so much because I just myself love posing.
Mhm. Well, it's a big thing now. If I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people are doing strictly posing coaching. So they don't even, like, a lot of people are just focusing strictly on that. It's becoming a huge part of the coaching business. So
Oh, yeah.
I do think that people have kind of noticed that that's like, that's what everybody kind of wants to be the best at. So it's like physiques, we all know how to do that, but
Yes.
but posing, that's like a very artful type of thing. It's hard to just get it on your own. Sometimes you need a little
Yeah.
bit of coaching. And you took the words right out of my mouth when you said men's physique, because when you were talking about posing, that's what I was thinking about. The men's physique
Yeah.
posing is incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
It's
um
so impressive.
yeah,
It's like a show. Like
yeah,
that's, yeah, it's like
very
the
exciting.
physique itself is a show, and then it's like, then they put on this, like, it's like a dance. And
Yeah,
it's
I wouldn't be against like similar, styles of posing in other divisions. But I know they like to separate that. They don't want every
yeah.
division doing the same poses. But I thought Sarah in the women's physique also did a
Oh, I love
great.
her.
That was such a good presentation of her physique and the posing that she did. I forgot the name of the song that she used, but it was a perfect song that she used. And I liked it so much. My wife doesn't follow as much, but I was like, oh no, you have to see this. Like, you have to see this. She's like, really? I said, yeah. So I showed
Yeah.
it to her. It was like, she thought, wow, that's so beautiful. That's an amazing thing. So for somebody that doesn't really follow bodybuilding, to say that's a no, that's a huge compliment. So
Yeah. And I think that's such a great thing for bodybuilding, is like, if we can kind of tap into something else that makes somebody who doesn't know anything about bodybuilding interested or
mhm.
intrigued. or
Right.
kind of pulls us in. And I that's why I try to show other people like people who don't really know much about bodybuilding, like a lot of
Mhm.
my friends and family and stuff like that, just how unbelievable some of these athletes are. And
Yeah.
you could just tell like the heart and like the love that they put into it. And I think for me, so like with my clients, like I have my posing clients, and something that I tell them is that when you step on stage and you go in front of these judges, you want to show them that you've done your homework. You know, they are sitting there and they're judging you, and you want to show them, hey, I respect you and what you're doing, and you're sitting there and you're watching me, and I did my homework, and I want to show you that I know exactly what I need to bring to do well.
Right.
And it's just a respect thing, in my opinion. Like when somebody shows up to a show and like has no fucking clue what they're doing on stage, like to me that's a disrespect thing. I'm just like, wow, like you really decided to show up and not respect the sport. So
Right.
yeah, it's something I could probably go on about for a long time, because I just love the posing part of bodybuilding. So yeah, I think it's, and to see certain competitors really just kind of take that to like the highest level is really, really awesome to see. And it's really motivating.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, because like the last thing that you want is someone who's not at their best, and that doesn't mean just your physique, you know, like that also means, you know, your presentation. Yes. So it's like you don't want to show up not at your best, because it really does like damage the reputation of that particular show. So a lot of these shows are ongoing, like they're yearly shows, you know, whatever. And so you want the best, like the best representation for that show, because a lot of times what happens is if the outcome or the people competing are not interested enough to show up at their best, usually the show won't last for that long. So it's like, you know,
like you kind of sit there and you're watching it and you're like,
yeah, because you got to get people interested. You got to get people coming. So it's like, so what's the point if you're not going to be at your best? But yeah, for sure. What did you think about since we mentioned Sarah and you mentioned how much you like her? What did you think about her beating Shanique Grant? That it was a few years ago. Oh, that's the year you were there,
which was wild. Like I remember, so I've always been such a big fan of Shanique. She's just, oh my God, unbelievable, like genetic freak, like, and obviously mix that with hard work. And she just did all the right things. And I was with my best friend, Quentin, and we were watching it, and it was like, she stepped up and they were being compared. Right. And I was like, I couldn't believe I saw her in person, because I had followed her on Instagram for a really long time. And it was crazy. I was sitting there and I was like, they turned to the back, and I think it was like they did their back double. And I was like, I looked at Quentin and I was like, man, I don't know. I was like, Sarah's glutes, like her legs are fucking crazy. I'm like, yo, I'm like, there's something that's going to happen. Like I've got this feeling. And I was like, and I love Shanique, and I was rooting for her. Obviously, I've always been such a big fan. I didn't really know about Sarah, if I'm completely if I'm being honest. I just knew about Shanique and Natalia. I didn't know too much about Sarah, because I didn't really follow the division too much. But seeing it in person, I was like, I just kind of like, my heart kind of like dropped, but I was also so excited, because it was like, Shanique was so impressive, and so like everybody had that hype that she will win always, you know?
Right.
But obviously something, you know, happened, or, you know, Sarah just happened to be better on that day. And it was really something I won't forget. Like it was just like, holy shit, is she about to like win right now? Like she about to beat her. Like it was crazy. And it's a shame that they that Shanique didn't like go up against her again the following year. And it just, because I could see that as being like a continuing like rivalry, I guess. And I think that they're both just such beautiful physiques. But yeah, I thought it was crazy, and it made me such a big fan of Sarah, because of just how impressive she was.
Yeah.
And she's just a very driven and humble competitor, and I
Yeah.
can really respect that.
You were there in person, so you had much better view than I did. I saw it from
Yeah.
pictures, and yeah, like you, I did not think that Jenny Grant was going to be beaten anytime soon. I mean, she just seems so dominant. So when I looked at the pictures post show, and I was like, well, I don't see it. I don't see why Sarah won, because Shanique still looks so much better. But later, and when I started, and like you, I didn't know who Sarah was, and because when you have a dominant champion like Shanique, everyone's focused on her. Nobody's
Yes.
really focused on anyone else. So
Yeah.
it's like Michael Jordan. Like when people go to see Michael Jordan play, they don't care who he's playing against. So
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
so yeah. So when I saw Sarah later at other shows like the Olympia this year and stuff, then I started to really realize, okay, now I see like how she beat her. She's really, really good. The pictures that I saw did not do her justice.
Yeah. Like when they were standing next to each other, like you can appreciate them both. Like they're both so impressive. And when I saw that Sarah won, I was like, okay, like, are they really, like, did she really beat her in terms of like she just like demolished her? Like it was just like no questions. Like, but it was just Sarah just had that one thing, and that one thing was her condition. Was
Yeah.
just, how do you not reward that?
Right.
Like it was so impressive. I'd never seen something like that on a female before. Like it was like, I even a male. I haven't
Yeah.
seen a lot of males come in like that. Like
Oh
she was
yeah.
so dry
Yeah, she
and
was
so
sharper. She was sharper than most
sharp.
men I've ever seen. Like that's yeah, no question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. It was just something where I was like, okay, what? Because even when that happened, it was kind of like, yeah, you look at it and you're like, how did that happen? Like, how did she beat her, right? So you have to kind of really look and break everything down. And
Right.
for me, it was like they were really neck and neck with everything, but Sarah just had that edge, that X factor to bring home the win. And I think that's the crazy thing about bodybuilding, and that's the thing that makes it so exciting, is that you have these incredible physiques and they're all amazing on their own, and then you put them all side by side, and it's like, it's really, really cool to just see like one little thing that can make somebody win. It's like, even with
Yeah.
like Brandon and Rami and you see these top guys, it's like, okay, they're all amazing. They're all massive. They're all lean. They're all grainy.
Yeah.
They're all hard. But it's like, what separates each one? And it's
Yeah.
really like a unique,
Did,
uh, unique aspect.
so on that point, did you have Rami winning or Brandon winning before they announced it, obviously?
This
Yeah, this
2021.
last one.
Um, I had Rami. I'm a big fan of Hottie as well. I saw Hottie like live for the first time in Vancouver when I competed in Vancouver in 2019, which most people say it was Hottie's best.
Yeah, I heard about that show. Yeah,
It was crazy. Like it was literally the most insane thing I'd ever seen. Like it was like, the crowd also was insane. Like he had such a big fan base in Vancouver, which was wild. And I'd never been so like, I couldn't, like, you just couldn't take your eyes off of Hottie. Like he was just so impressive. And I feel like it was like kind of like the same thing, that like same impression that Sarah had. It was like you just really couldn't take your eyes off of her because her condition was just fucking nuts. And then with Rami, it's more his size. Like he's just he's just massive.
Yeah.
It's like, and then like certain detail, like when he turns to the side, and I think it's his side chest, like his hamstring and his glutes were just wild.
Yeah.
like just absolutely wild. And you know, Brandon is such an impressive bodybuilder as well, but it's
Mm.
like it's when he's standing next to Rami, it's like Rami is just, I don't know. It's just he's just a freak of nature. Like he's just such a big guy. And like I met
Yeah.
him in person years ago, many, many years ago, and he's just such a big dude. And it's like how do you not reward that when he comes in with the proper shape,
Mm.
symmetry, and condition?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the big knock on Rami, right, for a couple of years that he wasn't coming in condition. Now that he kind of nailed that down, it's going to be hard to beat him. I mean, I might be being a homer here, but Brandon is here at Nashville. He lives here, so
Oh,
actually
does
not,
he?
yeah, not far from actually from where I am, and so he has a gym here and everything. So I had Brandon winning, but I think Brandon also is like. To me was a more aesthetically pleasing physique, while Rami's got that size
I agree.
and just that monster, look. And it sounds like they're moving in back to the more monster type of Olympia champ, so and that's going to be hard to beat Rami for anyone if that's the look that they're looking for, so
Yeah, I think that like with the Olympia in general, I think that this year, especially with the top two in every single division, um, it could have gone either way, and I would have been happy with either
yeah,
or.
it was
And
close, I think. Yeah.
yeah, very close with all the divisions. And I think that for me, how I kind of go about it is I watch the Olympia, I analyze it, I see who wins, and then I try to understand from a judge's standpoint why they went the way that they did. And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily always disagree. I don't
Mm.
think I've ever really I try not to, because I'm just like, realistically, where's that going to get you?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
complaining about a placing like for an Olympia, which I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But what I try to do is I try to analyze what they saw in that competitor to make them win, and then it's just like you can't really. I mean, Brandon, I agree, is more aesthetically pleasing. I think that in other divisions as well, in open too, there's a lot of physiques that I think
Mm.
could do better because I do think that they're more aesthetically pleasing. Like you can look at the Toronto Pro as an example. And maybe I'm biased because Quinn is one of my best friends, but there was an argument of Joel versus Quentin, and
Mm.
then you see third, fourth, fifth, and then you see the second call out, and it's like kind of confusing, but
Yeah.
it's like you can't really. That's the thing with bodybuilding, right? Is
Yeah.
like you just kind of have to accept that sometimes they just go for a different look in a division, and it's
Yeah.
like,
It's very subjective. I mean, there's not, it's hard to get around that. It is a subjective sport, but I mean, it's not the only one. I mean, you can think of something like I was thinking of figure skating, they're judged,
yeah,
so they're judged, they have certain criteria, kind of like bodybuilding does, like you have poses for bodybuilding, but at the end of
yep,
the day, it's based upon what that judge saw. And sometimes you'll get tens in figure skating, and sometimes all that one random judge just gives him a low score for some reason. I mean, it just happens,
yeah.
yeah.
I grew up horseback riding, and it was
Hmm.
very similar,
Yeah.
very, very similar. Like it was. I competed in a certain division that was called like equitation, which was you're judged on your posture, and
Mm.
the rider is judged. And then
Mm.
there's another division called hunter, which is based on the horse and how the horse
Mm.
moves. And then you have the other division, which is in the Olympics, which is show jumping, which is
Mm.
based on the time and the speed.
Yeah,
Which
that's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, horseback riding. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever ridden a horse, but that would be
Oh, really?
yeah, but I'm trying to think back. No, not even when I
Very
was a
similar
kid or
though.
anything. Yeah. So,
Very, very similar. Like in terms of those divisions, like there was shows that I was winning, and then there
mhm.
was other shows where the judges preferred, my equitation, my posture, and then other times I wouldn't at all. So it's like it's really it's pretty is bias the right word to use? Yeah, I guess bias is the word.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. Yeah. It's one of those things. Yeah. As far as Hadi, he's like didn't he win two years in a row? He won what do they call it? The
Like
people's
award, yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing to me how a man who doesn't speak much English, if anything, if at all, I mean, and is from, what's he from, Iran or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So is so popular. He is so popular. Like it's crazy. Yeah.
Like in Vancouver, he had a full on like there was people who I'm sure didn't really give a fuck about anything else. Like they just wanted to go for Hadi, and he had like a huge group of people there.
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing.
And it's like the crowd went insane, and it startled me because I was like, I wasn't expecting like that huge group of people.
Yeah,
like it was wild. It was like a big, massive group of guys. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
And
yeah,
that like, nuts for him.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you know, I kind of fall into that too. I've never met him, but like I look at him, I look at his disposition, I look at like, you know, his face, whatever, and that's like, I'm like, yeah, he seems like a likable guy. I don't know, something about him, you know. It's like,
yeah.
So
yeah, it's just somebody who, like, he's just good at what he does.
Yeah,
and you could just tell he loves it.
Right.
And he just has he has such a great time when he goes out there and he puts on a show. And that's I just, for me, I've always respected an athlete who can do that, who just goes out there and just owns it, you know, and he owns it. He knows, he's like, yeah, I look good, and I like it's just so cool. And he really is impressive, you know. Yeah. So it's like, how do you not love him for that?
Sure. No, yeah. Absolutely. So as far as your competitive season is concerned, do you have any plans for 2022?
I do. Yeah, I do. And I'm laughing because I'm like, I got a long way to go. But I'm planning to, so I hadn't had a coach for like many years. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, I have my reasons, but I finally hired a coach, who I'm very excited to work with. And we plan to do a show at the end of May. And then our first attempt at the pro card will be the Toronto Pro Show, which is June 4th, which is very exciting and also very nerve-wracking for me. And I typically don't get nervous with shows. I just get super hyped up. But for some reason, as the years go on, I feel more pressure because I feel as if I've been doing this for so long. I mean, technically I haven't, but
2015 to now is not.
I started. Yeah, but that's the plan, and that'll be the first one.
Yeah. So. And so the plan is you get your pro card there. If that doesn't happen, are you going to try to hit another like pro qualifier?
Yeah. So there's Toronto in June, then there's Vancouver is usually always in July. Then North Americans is typically end of August. Then there's what's in September?
There's a few.
Like for Canadians, we don't have too many. We only have the Toronto Pro, which is in June. July is Vancouver. Canadian Nationals is usually October or November. Then there's the Ben Leader, but that's a natural show. And then we have, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's it for Canadian shows. But there's so North Americans is end of August, and then Amateur Olympia and Canadian Nationals are in like the October to December range.
Yeah, let's hope for the best with regard to the pandemic, because I know, like, you know, that's all, you know, up in the air sometimes. Although they've been good about holding shows, but I don't know how Canada is, you know, with regards to that. So
yeah, so in 2020, actually, my show, the Toronto, got canceled 2 days out.
That's the worst. That's the worst. You've
It
been
was
you've been
bad.
prepping, you've been doing everything right, getting ready, and 2 days before you just
Yeah, it
the
was
rug.
really hard. It was really, really hard. And that's why I went to Orlando, which was 3 weeks, 3 weeks after the Toronto was canceled.
Mm.
But I mean, it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. It was a good experience, and I um I have family in Florida,
Hmm.
so I got to see some of them, which was dope. And it was
Awesome.
also, I got to go to the Olympia. I got to, meet a whole bunch of people that I've um been in contact with for many years, and also meet so many different bodybuilders that I've looked up to. And
Yeah.
just it was just really, really cool to be there competing, and then they're competing too. So it's
Right.
like we're all in the same zone.
Yeah, that's awesome when you can compete with some of the higher like up people like on the same, same show. It's always like a fun
Yeah, it was
experience,
really
right?
cool, like just being like at, because the hotel that we booked, a lot of the HD people, we all booked the same hotel, and
Hmm.
then there was a lot of Olympians staying at the same hotel as us. So it was like I'd be
Yeah.
getting like a coffee in the lobby, and then I just see like Wesley Visser. I got to meet Wesley, which was really cool.
Cool.
Uh, Guy is so tall, but I'm also really short. But I got to meet him, which is really cool. And then like just being at the venue, just seeing all the bodybuilders walk around was really, really awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, well, wishing you the best. Hopefully, you get your pro card ASAP.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. I think I'll get it this year. I think
yeah,
I'll get it. I just have to come in how I need to,
mm,
which is just come in condition enough. I think um, last year was a tough year. Well, not sorry, last year, it's 2020 now. So uh, it was really hard for me, and I didn't come in how I needed to, but I was still happy with what I achieved. I think I just know exactly what I need to do to be completely undeniable for a pro card this year. And I
yeah,
think having Chris, who's my coach now, having him on my side,
yeah,
and having him, because like I mean, as a competitor, it's you have to focus on so many different things as it is, and then with coaching yourself, it's like adding on like 200 things more. And
sure,
it's like when you're tired and you're overlooking yourself, it's like it's really tough. So now that I've kind of handed off the reins to him, I'm like
hmm,
pretty excited because I don't have to worry too much
yeah.
anymore. um
You got a
and
second pair of eyes too on you, so
Yeah, and he's very, very knowledgeable on the category and on the sport in general. He's had a really successful year, so I'm really, really excited to work with him.
hmm,
So I think it'll
awesome,
be good.
awesome.
Yeah,
So I see you're in your captain's chair there. I noticed that
yeah,
you game a lot too, right?
I do. Yeah, yeah, I do. I started Twitch streaming a year and a bit ago now. I've always loved video games. I grew up playing video games with my brother, and I grew up with a lot of male cousins
Hmm.
who love gaming. So I just I found out about Twitch streaming back in I want to say 2018.
Hmm.
Uh, and then I decided to do it when I moved back home in 20 end of 2019. So
So how does that work? Like, what do you? So I'm kind of unclear about like how Twitch streaming works. Like, do you play and you just live? Like people watch you play? Like, how does that work?
yeah, so I stream Call of Duty, which is
Hmm.
like probably one of the most popular games right now. I mean, it's a very toxic game, and a lot of people either hate it or love it. uh, but I started decided to stream Call of Duty mainly because I grew up kind of playing Call of Duty, and Call of Duty only was like it was one of the first the shooter games that I really enjoyed and that I was actually pretty good at and that
Hmm.
I just enjoyed. So yeah, so it's a very like passionate community, the Call of Duty community especially, and the Twitch community as well. It's the thing I love about Twitch is it gives people an opportunity to communicate and network with each other, just kind of based on just communication in general. It's like you
Hmm.
don't The thing I love about it is that it gives people an opportunity who aren't very social to communicate and be social without feeling like they're being judged for who they are or what they do or what they look like,
Yeah.
or they just want to talk to someone. And it's really cool because you kind of, it's hard to explain, like,
yeah, alleviates some of that pressure, I guess, that you would,
yeah.
if you're a person that's socially awkward or like socially just not in good in social environments, like it allows you to ease into it a little bit.
Yeah, and so with Twitch, it's like you go live and then you have a chat that is there, and people can come in and say hello, and it's free. It's a free site. I mean, obviously there is money in it, which is based on your subscriptions and then based on your donation, like your donations, and then there's also a Twitch currency as well. So there's some people who are very, they just want to support you and they subscribe to your channel. And when they subscribe to your channel, they get certain like perks, which is like you have your own emotes, which is like your own emojis, I guess you could say. And that's after you've hit affiliate, which is something that you, the only way to get paid on Twitch is if you become an affiliate, and there's certain like, certain things you kind of have to check off and achieve before you can get those. So I love it so much. I missed it. I haven't been streaming as much because I moved and I was working a lot, and obviously I wasn't in lockdown anymore. But I love it so much, and I want to be able to do it full time.
I mean, that would be cool. It's like kind of like what what people dream of when they're younger, right? To play video games for a living.
I mean, it's there's obviously pros and cons to it,
right?
I mean, but there's pros and cons to everything, right?
Right. Sure.
But yeah, it's really awesome, and it's really it's given me an opportunity to just make friends like all over the world, really. Like I made a lot of friends through like James Hollingshead, because him and we became friends because he wanted to start streaming because he loves video games, and he asked me about it, and he started, and then it was just kind of like I was part of his, like I supported him. I was always in his stream, and we used to play Call of Duty together. So we kind of like built this, like, we have like a lot of mutual friends because of Twitch, and it's been really, really awesome because they'll come into my stream and be like, how's prep going? Like, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? And like, it's just, it's really, really cool. Awesome. And I've been able to make friends in the UK, and it's really cool because it's like, I know that if I were to go to London, like I have a whole bunch of friends there now.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of how I feel like a little bit about this podcast is when I started like a year or two ago. It's like since I started, I've met like so many people all over the world, and given they're all like fitness related, but still, there's people that now I know like in Australia and somewhere else. It's it's really interesting. So
yeah, it's really cool to like another thing was like finding people who were just as passionate about gaming and bodybuilding. So it's like so I've played with James often, or I did play with James often. I don't know if you know Jamie. His thing is AKA Giant on Instagram. I don't know if you know him. He's a bodybuilder in the UK as well. He's like 6'6", like minimum.
I might have come across him, but right now, I mean, I'm not.
So like he games. Yeah, he games. Regan, I've played a couple games. Regan and I play sometimes. And cool. It's been really cool to just like find other people who love the exact same things as me. Yeah, it's really, really awesome.
Awesome. Well, to pivot and kind of like round up our conversation, I know you said that you do some coaching, some posing coaching, right? Correct?
Yeah.
So if you want to plug in like whatever you want to plug, I will put everything on the bottom of this video.
Thank you.
but if you want to just plug a couple of things, this would be a good time to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I like market it too much, but I
Mhm.
definitely, it's something I'm passionate about. I've been doing it since I pretty much started competing. I've always wanted to help people
Mhm.
just kind of find their own flow with posing, and really um just showcase uh their best self.
Yeah.
Um, so typically I have like my online clients who will message me just through my Instagram or
Mhm.
whatever, and work with them through there, and I'll do like some one-on-ones too with some girls locally as well. Which I prefer. I'm very like hands-on.
Sure.
I'm very like, I'm just too much sometimes. But yeah, and then I eventually would like to get into the whole coaching thing, but like competition prep and everything. But I haven't
Right.
really got around to that just yet.
Yeah.
I've got so many other things.
Right. You probably have so much on your plate as it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just mainly like my Twitch thing. I just recently like got, I had my merch. I got some stuff on the way there. Well, I had my hats and my shirts that I just finished up, um, which has been awesome. And then I just kind of want to keep pushing that. I just love clothes, and I
Yeah.
love just,
Very
yeah,
cool. Very cool. Well,
yeah.
yeah, I'll add everything at the bottom of this so people can click on it and
Oh, thank you,
make it a little easier for them to get to it. But
thank you.
sure. And so again, just to kind of close out our conversation, I want to thank you for coming on the show, Milan, right?
Thank
Milan.
you for having. Yes, it was great.
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah,
have you on my. I gotta have you on my Twitch. I gotta have you on my YouTube.
yeah,
Get around to it.
yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah, just hit me up. And so again, I appreciate your time, and you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much. I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.